right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. We're very happy to have you here today. We are going to be talking about Katalon TrueTest in this webinar, and with us today we have Maile, our Senior Product Manager and the mastermind behind all this wonderful product that we're about to show you. We also have Cody Rosenblatt, our CTO here at Katalon, and last but not least, and our presenter today, Alex Martin, our Vice President of Strategy. A couple of housekeeping items for this webinar. We are recording this session, so in the unlikely case that you may need to leave the webinar earlier before we finish, you can access this webinar on demand at katalon.com/webinars. Also, we will have a Q&A session prepared for you at the end. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and use the Q&A button that you see at the bottom of the Zoom interface that you're using to watch this webinar. Put your questions in there, and we will either address those as we have the conversation or at the end in the Q&A session. So please don't wait until the end to ask any questions that you may have. And also, if you want to chat with other participants in the webinar, you are more than welcome to do so. In the chat window, please put in there any comments, any feedback, anything that you would like to hear or know. And also, I will be sharing with you multiple resources that we have related to TrueTest in there today. Without further ado, I am going to give the time to Alex. And well, Alex, Cody, and Maile, thank you for being here. The time is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Lucio. Just a quick check. Can you hear me okay? Am I coming loud and clear? All right.
Loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right. So guys, everybody, welcome to today's webinar. I'm really excited to share what we've been working on here to help you finally take care of regression testing in a way that saves you a ton of time. And we've been working on this for a while, but we've decided to not release it earlier because we wanted to perfect it so that when you get your hands on TrueTest, it's actually useful, right? You're not just playing with AI. So I'm really excited about it. I'm joined here by Maile, my partner in crime, and Cody Rosenblatt as well. We're all very excited to introduce you to what we have here. So with that, let's just quickly do a quick run through the agenda. I want to start by sharing with you a little context. So one slide to make sure that you understand where we are coming from and how we are looking at the impact of AI in software testing, because there's obviously a lot of noise out there. And I want to make sure you understand our point of view so that we can finally help you understand why did we create TrueTest? What is the problem that we're trying to solve, and what is the problem that we're seeing most of our customers struggle with, and then how can TrueTest actually help solve that? And then right after that, we're going to talk about what it actually is. What is TrueTest? Why do we say it's an industry first? And we want to make sure you clearly understand and are able to articulate what TrueTest is to your colleagues as well. And finally, we want to help you understand how does it actually work, because that'll be your natural question, right? I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions once we get to the second part of the agenda. But then at the end of the day, you're going to want to see how does it actually work. So we're going to do a demo for you live just to make sure, as we're doing it, I'm hoping that, I wish I could see the wheels turning on the other side of the screen, but we want to make sure you have a lot of questions for us, because we're going to reserve a good amount of time for that at the end. But in the meantime, keep dropping your questions in the Q&A box there, and the team here is going to try to address them as we go. Okay, so moving forward here, everyone is talking about AI, but there's a lot of noise out there, right? And I'm sure you're confused, because I'm confused, right? What is it that I can actually use today to make me productive, as opposed to what can I use today for playing and for investigating and for seeing what it does, right? We want to separate that and make sure we bring to you today something that is extremely useful and it's going to make you productive from day one. So we start by basically giving you a quick overview on these 4 points here that essentially is how we are looking at AI, the impact of AI in software testing. The first point there is we're seeing developers now enabled with AI, with Copilot and that sort of technology. Now they're extremely productive. They're writing more code at unprecedented speed, right? So if they're putting out more code, what do you think is going to happen, right? It's going to increase the risk profile of each of those releases, which is normal, right? We want more code to be produced at faster speeds, and that's a good thing. You think about it from a business perspective, that's what everybody wants. We want to put new ideas on the hands of users as quickly as possible and as many times as possible. So that's a good thing, but we also cannot forget the impact of that. It might impact quality, and we want to make sure we catch any impact before the users take the brunt of negative experiences while they use the application. For that to happen, we need to make sure that testers have access to AI as well, and not just AI for the sake of saying I can test with AI, but really something that is useful, that's going to make them more productive. It's going to make them do more things in less time, and something that they can rely upon, right? Because AI today is known, in the current state of maturity, is known for giving you different perspectives each time you interact with it, giving you different outputs, right? So we want to make sure that testers, especially in our profession, software testing, we have to rely on the tools that we use. We have to depend on the tools that we use to make sure that we understand the system, whether it's working as expected or performing as expected, and so on and so forth. But we need AI as part of the toolkit of testers to make sure we can keep up with that speed of development today. And we look at AI as the fuel for testers, enables them to go faster, see more things, understand more insights about how their testing process is going, and it's something that is doing that work, that data crunching for them, not something that expects them to do a lot of input in order to get something meaningful out of it. And also optimize the testing process. So overall, there's a lot of things that we have to do manually to make sure that the process is working as expected. So we want to make sure that the testing folks are enabled to optimize their entire testing process. And lastly, the way we look at AI is that we don't see it replacing testers, by any means. Instead, we see it as something that will supercharge testers. It will make them superhumans. It'll make them do a ton more than what they can do today, not just in terms of volume, but in terms of complexity. So there's a lot of theories around, will AI replace developers, and will it replace testers, and that's not how we look at it. And the way we are thinking about our solutions here at Katalon is really making sure that the tester is at the center of everything and is in control and is driving it, and then AI is making them become superhumans. So that's our point of view. And with that context set, let's move on here so that we can help you understand why did we create TrueTest and why we think you should care. There's a very specific problem across our customer base, and we see that in general in the market. We were just at Star West a couple of weeks ago, and we heard that time and time again. So good validation for what we're bringing to the world here. So why did we create it? And I'm gonna need your help to answer this simple question. Well, seemingly simple question. If you think about Sophie's choice, the tester's choice. If you had to choose what's more important to you today, would you say it's ensuring new features are working properly, or ensuring that existing features don't break with the new release? And you'll see a little poll pop up on your screen there. So if you can help me out just for me to kind of gauge where the audience is today, and that kind of will help me with my flow here. But essentially what we're asking is, are you focusing more on testing those new features, so dedicating more time and effort on the green part here of this left box, this box on the left, and a little time for regression testing? to make sure that the new features are working, and hopefully there's no regression. Or on the right-hand side, spending little time on new feature testing because you're spending a lot of time with regression testing. So there's no right or wrong answer here. I'm just trying to gauge where you all are today, this morning or afternoon or evening. See a lot of answers coming up. That's great.
Yeah. Answers are pouring in.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Yeah. So right now, the current state of the poll is trying to see if I'm interpreting this correctly. Yeah, 36% new features work properly, and the remaining existing features don't break. So the majority answering the existing, they're dedicating time with the existing to make sure existing features don't break. Okay, that is very good. Thank you for participating, everyone. That's very helpful. And I think it's aligned with what we're seeing with our customer base and out there in the market in general. Cool. All right. So I think that was enough time. Thank you for participating. And what I'm going to tell you is why should you care? Well, based on the poll results, it looks like we're spending a lot of time on making sure existing features don't break, which is normal. We see that. Unfortunately, that's the state of the testing world today. And why that happens? Well, if you're doing manual regression testing, what we're seeing out there is that obviously we need to update those manual tests as the application changes. I mean, those regression test suites, every time there's a release, there are new features, there are changes in existing features. So we need to go back to those suites to identify the tests that are no longer working because the functionality's changed. And we need to update them to reflect the new functionality to make sure they're useful, right? So that you can run them next time and catch regressions, right? But we know that unfortunately, and I guess the poll also shares that that sentiment, that almost never happens. The teams don't have time to do that very thoroughly, if at all. And then if we think about those teams doing automated regression testing, it's even worse there because usually they update the regression tests after the manual regression test cases are updated. Usually, right? Depends on how the process is set up for the team, but that's a usual behavior that we see, and that causes the automation, the update to the automated scripts to lag one sprint behind, and you're always trying to catch up, sprint after sprint, and that's a never-ending battle, very effort intensive. Again, almost never happens. I mean, who has the time to keep doing that forever, right? It's super expensive from an effort perspective and from a time perspective. And then you have the third type, which is what I call the fingers crossed regression testing, which essentially is very common in those teams that have very deep domain knowledge and that are very comfortable in looking at the application, doing some spot checks on the critical flows and saying, yeah, I think it's good, let's just do it. We don't have time for anything else. So I mean, there's a lot of risk there too, and that's something we're trying to address. So if you're struggling with any of these scenarios here, then you're in the right place. We're gonna help you understand, obviously what TrueTest is and how it actually help you in this never-ending battle, so you can finally win it. So what is it? What is Katalon TrueTest, and what does it mean to you? I always like to make it more relatable to you. So hopefully I'll be able to accomplish that today. So what is it? Well, Katalon TrueTest is an AI-driven test automation solution that generates and maintains automated tests based on true user activities. So let me break it down for you, right? So it's a test automation solution that generates, so it creates automated tests and maintains automated tests as the application evolves and changes, right? TrueTest will also do the maintenance, will keep those tests up to date, so you can always run them whenever you need it, just like that. And how does TrueTest does that? Well, it does that based on true user activity. So it understands what real users are doing in your application, and then it obviously our thought here is if users are in your application, they are navigating in your application, and they're being successful, right? They're extracting value to them. They're making deposit. They're doing searches for products. They're doing whatever your business is. Then that means if they're using it, that means there's a certain level of quality there, right? The company's making money. Whatever business metrics that the company tracks is trending in the right direction. Everybody is happy. So we assume that if that is a good experience, the users are having a good experience, the company is making money, then let's call that our baseline, right? Let's call that quality. And then what we do is basically we automatically generate tests for you to run in your test environment, development environment, staging, UAT, whatever environment you have before release, so that you can run those same scenarios that your users exercise to make sure that if this release goes out the door, we catch anything that's going to break that customer experience in production. So again, think about regression testing. A challenge, one of the challenges is always to understand what are the business critical scenarios that I should regression test first. Now, what TrueTest is giving you is exactly those business critical scenarios to make sure that they cannot break. Otherwise, that there's going to be impact to the customer experience. And you know exactly what that impact is going to be. So to put it in words, TrueTest enables you to see what your users truly do, thus the name. So it captures the real users' interactions in your application. It generates a user journey map to show you what those interactions are. Where are the users going? What they are doing in each of those pages of your application. And then you understand what is truly business critical for you, right? You don't have to guess anymore or do some like risk-based testing based on your gut feel, based on your domain knowledge, based on requirements, right? It's really, I'm looking at what my users deem important. I don't have to guess, I'm looking at it. And then you can make your decisions. We don't stop there. That's a great value, but this is the real core differentiator and value that TrueTest delivers. Now that you understand how the users navigate your application, it automatically generates regression tests for you. And those regression tests reflect what those users truly do. So think about, again, those times where you're crunched for time, you have to, think about, oh, what should I test first, or what should I test at a minimum? So now you have all those regression tests that are business critical, that matter to your users, ready to run. No need to maintain them. Zero maintenance, right? TrueTest, as it identifies any changes in the way users do things in production. So think about this. There's a new release. The users now have access to new pages, new buttons, or new data fields. They are, or existing things have changed, so functionalities have changed. TrueTest understands that and automatically updates the test cases that it had generated before. You don't have to worry about it. We are, when I say we, TrueTest is seeing those changes, and it automatically reflects them in the regression tests that it generates for you. And you're always touching on those business critical scenarios, making sure that they don't break if you choose to release the current version of the code to production. And then lastly, but not least, visualization, right? That's super important. So you have the test, that's awesome, right? That's huge, actually. But if you can't really look at how much you are covering from your testing process perspective, then you will always be like, well, but I already do a lot of testing. Now I have these amazing regression tests that TrueTest is generating for me. How am I faring against what my users are truly doing? So TrueTest enables you to compare the current coverage of your existing tests. So let's say you have Katalon tests today, you're running them, as usual, and now you have the TrueTest test cases that it generates, and it shows you in a very nice user journey map what am I not covering, right? So you can see exactly what your tests are covering and not covering. And the cool thing is, once you see those gaps visually, you can basically ask TrueTest to generate new tests. Say, okay, I see the gap there, but what am I going to do? I don't have time to create more tests. Well, no need. TrueTest, generate more tests for me to close those coverage gaps, please. So it's that simple. And that helps quality engineers prioritize and guide their testing efforts to focus first on those business critical scenarios. There's no more guessing, right? You're truly seeing what needs to be done and how much has been done already. So you can make sure you're confident that you're gonna finish your testing before the release, and you're not gonna have to compromise. So with that, how does that actually work? How does TrueTest actually work? First step is TrueTest, for it to understand what the users are doing, it needs to capture those real user interactions with the application. So it's a process very known and very similar to how other product analytics tools do. So if you talk with your engineering, with your front-end engineers, if you talk with your product teams, your marketing teams, they all use tools, and I'm going to say a few names here. Maybe you have heard about them, but some product analytics, product insight tools like Segment, Full Story, Heap, right? Google Analytics itself. So all of those tools that are used by the development team, by the product teams, marketing, all of those tools capture those user interactions directly in the application. So as the user has their browser open, those applications have a little JavaScript code snippet that loads in the browser and then sends those user interactions to those to the cloud of those products, so they can process, right? So it's the same technology that we are leveraging, but we use it for different means, right? While those products use that for providing product insights and understanding the funnel and those kinds of things from a product perspective, we're using those user interactions for doing something else, which is generating those user journey maps to help you understand what is it that that your users are actually doing. And obviously, we have to use a lot with the current state of AI. We're able to use a lot of AI to analyze those user interactions across all those sessions that come from the user's browsers to us. And that enables us to identify the most frequently navigated user flows, because then it shows you in a nice view what are the more important, more critical parts of my application according to what we're seeing from the users. And then again, the core part of it is, that's great that we understand all that. You have a ton of intel that you've never had before, and you can make very fact-based, very data-based decisions. But now you have also the ability to automatically generate those tests, those to be used for regression testing, for example. And that's based on the most frequently navigated flows. So if you think about that for a second, you have, again, the ability to get, just like that, automated tests that you can run as part of your regression pack without having to do any effort. And you know that those tests will be the right ones based on how the users are actually navigating. But what are test cases if they don't have data, right? So one thing that we also do with AI is we automatically generate synthetic data for you to feed into those tests, and then you can run them as soon as they're ready, right? As soon as they're generated. So that's something that we're very proud of. We didn't stop at just generating the tests. We went all the way to say, hey, you have the test, here's an initial data set that you can use, or you can provide your own, right? But the point is, you can data drive your test as you're used to already. And the cool thing is that all of that the TrueTest is doing is fully integrated into your existing Katalon toolset. So if you have Katalon Studio, the Katalon Runtime Engine, test ops, whatever you're using from a Katalon perspective, you can simply take those tests and they're fully integrated into the rest of the platform. You can run them. You can see you can feed data just like you do as usual. And mind you, those tests are zero maintenance, right? So as TrueTest sees things getting updated by the users or the behaviors of the users changing, those tests are seamlessly updated as well. And lastly, but not least, visualization, right? Understanding what is a test coverage directly in that user journey map enables you to understand what am I missing, right? What am I missing from a testing perspective in my pre-release testing that I want to do, but I don't have the time. So let me ask TrueTest to actually do it. So these 5 steps essentially illustrate how the process of TrueTest works. And again, this is all seamless to you, right? And I'm going to show you exactly what you see in TrueTest right now. See lots of good questions coming in, so thank you guys for that. All right, so to start the demo here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our little demo application, the cell phone shop, and it's basically a little web application, a React-based application, e-commerce. You can think of it super simple, where you can essentially search for products. Let's say click on the iPhone 15 Pro. I can choose the configurations that I want. I can say buy, which is adding to cart. I can come to the cart. I already had my iPhone from before. I can remove it. Yes, okay. So all of these interactions, I can proceed to checkout. All of these interactions are being captured by TrueTest behind the scenes. Like I don't even know it's there. I don't have to click on a button to start recording or stop recording. And in case you're interested, I'm sure this is one of the questions you're going to have. I can show you here exactly where that code snippet goes. So if you look at our head element of this application, the cell phone application, you can see here that our traffic agent, the TrueTest traffic agent, is loaded here. And what that does is it enables, like I said, super common trivial technology for product analytics and product experience tools. So it's the same tech, very known and very proven. So as I'm interacting here with the application, that agent is capturing all those clicks, sending it to our cloud, fully secured. I'm sure that's going to be one of the questions, and I'm going to address those. But fully secured PII data, fully, we're not capturing PII data, et cetera. But the point is, we receive all those interactions, and what do we do with that? So this is TrueTest, or one of the pieces of TrueTest. This is essentially the user journey map of that application, of the cell phone shop application. Here you can see we have 12 pages that users are going through in that application. And you see here each bar, each represents, or each node here in blue, dark blue, represents a page, or a node as we call it. You can see here the home page has no name. That's how we left it by default on the cell phone application, but we have the thank you page, the product page, the cart, checkout info, shipping address, et cetera. And the lines essentially denote how users in the application actually go or actually navigate across those pages. So we can see, based on the thickness of the lines, a majority of the users go from the product page to the cart page, right? And then you see here from the cart page, what they do next, they kind of branch into going to the checkout info page or directly into the shipping address page. From the checkout info page, they go to the shipping address page, as you can see here by this line that I'm hovering over. And then from the shipping address page, they usually go to the payment page. But as you can see, as you expect in an e-commerce application, it's like a funnel, right? A lot of users start from the product page, they add things to the cart, they're very excited, they add a lot of things, they get to the checkout info, they look at the price like, oh, I don't have that kind of money, I need to be more, I need to reduce my spend. So they go back to the cart, they review it, what they had, and then they kind of continue up to the payment page. So there's a lot of, just by looking at this map, you can infer a lot of the behavior of your customers in each of those functionalities, right? So what I described was the checkout flow. If you know your business, you just by looking at the map, you can make a lot of prioritization. You can understand, well, is it making sense? Is this how we actually intended the users to navigate, and so on and so forth, right? Immediate value right there. We don't stop there. So if we look at further down, you see that the main flows of the application are 5 flows, and we have generated 5 tests for those flows. And if you look further down, you have those 5 flows here prioritized by the traffic. So how many users are actually going through each of these flows? And the ones that have more users, we leave it at the top, because obviously those are the more important ones. You want to make sure they don't break, right? Before you release. Otherwise, obviously, there's going to be business impact to your company. So if you want to look at, all right, so this flow, we know it's the checkout flow. If you want to look at the test that was generated for that, simply click on View Test. And one cool thing you see right out of the gate is, look at the name of this test. This is not something that anybody had to type in there. We used AI, right? We used generative AI to generate meaningful names for each of those test cases. So in this case, it's verified a successful navigation to the checkout shipping address page. How cool is that? Nobody had to think about naming anything. Like, it just knows, right? And then if you want to look at the steps, you can, simply click on View Steps, and you see here, just as usual, if you are already a user of Katalon Test Ops, you're used to this view, but this is a real test. So navigate to the home page, click on the Google Pixel Pro product, etc., until you come here to step 9. Let's say you are at page checkout shipping address, input the first name, and then input the last name, and then input the address, zip code, blah, blah, blah. And look at the end, what we do. It added a visual checkpoint to make sure that at the end of the user flow, this is how the page state looks like, right? Because that's my baseline. When I run my regression test next time, I'm going to compare, or TrueTest is going to compare to the previous run. And if it looks somewhat different, we know there was a regression. So this is, you can think of it as an assertion that the AI added by itself, where without you having to come here and edit the test and do this and do that. In the future, you'll be able to do that for sure. But right now, it's immediate value, no effort on your part, right? So this is huge. And if you are a Katalon customer today, just like I did here, I'm looking at the test and all that, I can go to Katalon Studio and look at the actual script, the actual automated test for that flow. So remember that step number 9, where I'm typing in the first name? You can see the actual code that TrueTest generated for that. And then here you can see when it's setting the text of the first name, it's not hard-coded. And the cool thing about it, if you think of it, is, hey, it's great that Katalon is going to generate a ton of tests for me, but what good is it if it's always going to run with the same data, right? It's not going to work, because my data in production is different than my data in my test environment or dev environment, right? So what TrueTest does automatically is it parameterizes all of those tests. You can see here, when it's filling out the on the next step, the address, there is a parameter as well here, right? So everything is parameterized because we understand and acknowledge the differences between environments. So that's one cool thing. And then if you want to look at, okay, what are all the variables that I have in my my current test? In this case, TrueTest generated 8 different variables, and it pre-populated, again using AI, it generated data, synthetic data, to make sure that you have an initial sample that you can run on immediately, right? For that particular test. But if you want to add your own data, if you have your CSV files, if you have your data sets, you can come here. And actually, what I'm looking at here is an Excel file where it has one data row or one row of data, right? So you can add here as many as you want. You can bring your own test file or test data file, and then feed the test so that it runs with the data that makes sense to your system, right? There are many stateful flows, right, that in your application that you maybe the data on step 1 depends on data on step 4 and vice versa. So you can absolutely do that. So if you're a Katalon Studio user, you're very familiar with this view. And you also have the manual testing view, right, for those folks that don't want to work with with a script. They can switch back to the manual testing view, and you have the same parameters here, right? So let's see here on step 9, we have the first name. There you go. Same thing. Super easy, super seamlessly integrated into the whole platform of Katalon. And if you want to go deeper, you have all the objects here, right? That each page contains. So they were all captured, and they're interactable, and you can mess around with them as you need it. Although because this is automatically TrueTest is automatically updating those tests every time it sees users changing their behavior. You don't really need to mess around with it, but you can extrapolate and create your own scenarios and things like that. So that's that. I know it's a lot of information. I have gone relatively quickly because I'm excited. And let me make a pause here and see if Miley or Cody have any comments while I take just a sip of water, and then we can go into questions.
You covered very much everything, Alex. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
As is my norm, I was talking on mute, but I wanted to give you kind of what you also. I think you did a great job with everything. So I don't have anything to add, but I think we've got a lot of great questions and feedback coming in. So thanks everybody for the interaction.
Cool. And also, I'll just touch on one last thing, and then we can jump into questions, because I do want to leave a good chunk of time for questions. The last thing I want to say is, so let's say go back to Katalon Studio. If you are a Katalon Studio user today, you can just run it as you normally do, right? Run the test that TrueTest generated as you normally do, either individually or as part of a suite. You can do that by manually clicking here, or you can just get it integrated into your CI/CD. No differences there. On the TestOps platform, you can also schedule your own executions, right? You can run it from here as well. So let's say you just select the repository. In this case, it's I'm using this Git repository. This is my test suite that from my cell phone site. And then I choose the environment I want to run, let's say here on Firefox, and then I click on run, and off we go. So these tests are not just gimmick, right? Kind of going back to what I said in the beginning, there's a lot of talk on AI, a lot of buzz, a lot of hype, right? And what we are doing here with TrueTest is something that's not only meaningful, but it's useful to you. It's immediate value right now, something you can rely and depend on as part of your day-to-day. The goal is to get regression testing either off your plate, or if you still want to be involved, that's great. You can do that because you are in the driver's seat. You're not, we don't want you to start doubting what TrueTest is doing or testing TrueTest before you actually trust it. Obviously, there's going to be a period that you're going to get to know it. But the point is, we want you to be able to realize value immediately, and not something that you're, like when you play with ChatGPT and it gives you, different answers every time, and things like that. So that's what I had planned for today. So let me go back to my user journey map just to leave it up for you. And we can start going through the questions, and we have a lot of time to answer. So hopefully we'll make that very interactive. All right, so let's see here. The first one, I'll start from the top. Ooh, there's a lot. So the first one, which is great, guys, like that's what we want. If you have more, please shoot them. So I'm looking at the Q&A box first. I see there's someone in the chat as well. So I'm looking at the Q&A box. All right. So the summary here is, yeah, data, all data, site addresses, code, etc., is classified. What safeguards are in place to ensure AI is not capturing and storing any user interaction outside of the testing environment? Is the AI completely in-house, or does it reach out to the internet at some point?
I can jump in and make a couple of comments on that. I was starting to type. So first of all, I'll say that as a defense contractor, I'm sure you know that you've got some special constraints, and I think in any case we would want to dive in and really elaborate on those before we move forward. But in general, what you see here, most of the data collection AI is happening within our cloud-hosted, SOC 2 compliant, ISO audited hosting environment. Today, we don't have an on-premises version of this available, but it is on our roadmap, which may be relevant for people in highly secure domains, healthcare, banking, government, defense. The only time that we're using any third-party AI service today is in some of the generative features, which are not processing user data. Those are the features that are generating names for tests and the like. So I think that addresses the what's in-house and what reaches out to the internet today. Alex, any other comments on that front?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is, Mai, sorry, you want to go ahead, Mai? Okay. So the only other thing I would say is, we right now we are using, like Cody said, public LLMs, but the way TrueTest is architected is that it enables us to, as for example, if your government agency has already like a private LLM, right? Maybe you created and trained and your own models, right? Or let's say it's a bank, right? I see some other questions here, similar concerns, but let's say in the banking financial services industry, there's a lot of concerns, obviously, in healthcare, right? So a lot of these enterprises are, grabbing open source LLMs and fine-tuning it and hosting them in-house and fine-tuning it so that they're behind the firewall and so on and so forth. So the way TrueTest is architected is it can simply, now that it's pointing right to, let's say, OpenAI, tomorrow, if we deploy it into your organization and you have an LLM on-prem that you have fine-tuned yourself, we can have TrueTest point to your LLM. So the way the platform is architected, it enables, it's future-proofing it, right? Because it enables you to do that very seamlessly. What we find, though, is that today, most enterprise customers don't yet have an LLM like in production, fine-tuned with their own data behind the firewall. It's more experiments and pilot projects that are going on. But if you have something already available, we can certainly discuss and see if it makes sense. The point is, we are ready for when you guys are ready. Another thing I'll add is, I've just brought it up here on the screen, data privacy. So all the data is filtered out at source, so it never leaves the user's browser. So let's say I'm typing in my SSN and my phone number, etc. That agent that I showed you that is loaded by the browser behind the scenes doesn't capture that. It automatically filters out to the browser and never sends anything to our cloud. So there's nothing that on our cloud that we need to secure or mask or whatever. We don't have to deal with that part. It never leaves. And you have the option to configure if there are additional things, additional data types that you want to filter out. You don't want Katalon to ever see certain data types and entire portions of your application. So let's say I come here, to this cell phone shop page, and let's say you don't want to see the images, or you don't want to see the anything below the Apple title here, right? You don't want to see this. So this can be fully excluded from what gets actually sent to the Katalon cloud. You can do that in code, directly in your application code by just adding a couple of tags, or you can do that through TrueTest as well. So you are in control of what you want TrueTest to actually see. I see here another question, so I'll just take care of that in general, because I saw a few people ask in terms of performance, right? The concern is adding that agent to my code, is that going to degrade the performance of the application? Is it going to get slower because now you have your little JavaScript agent there? The answer is no. I mean, we do not only performance tests on the agent itself, but when we deploy TrueTest into any of your applications, we run a lighthouse reports to understand how much of an impact that's being done to your application. And across our customers today that have already joined our alpha program and now in beta, the performance degradation is negligible. It's really not a concern, has not been a concern to anyone. So, and we show that to our customers through lighthouse reports and other types of tools that we run to make sure that obviously we don't impact anything in production. Cool. Another question here is somebody was asking about potential use cases. Well, I just happen to have a slide for that. Look at that. So obviously, we want to make sure that this is practical for you, right? And the way I'm looking at this is, hey, the golden use case for TrueTest is obviously understanding how users navigate production, to give you tests that are truly representative of what's important to those users and to your business. And we do that. That's the golden use case. But what we've seen is that the technology itself of TrueTest can be used for other very interesting use cases as well. And we've seen some of our customers actually want to start with those use cases. So the second use case here in purple is we imagine now if you add that agent, the TrueTest agent, to the code of your application version that is currently being developed and tested in your development and QA environment, right? So what that means is that all your developers, your testers, your product owners, your business analysts, everybody that's going to that pre-production environment to run, to do feature demos, to do spot checks and manual testing. The product owner is going there to make sure that the flows that they had in mind are properly implemented. All of the testers are manually testing it. They're running automated tests. All of those interactions are being captured now by TrueTest. And what that means is you can essentially, now you're going to see that journey map representing how people are navigating the application in your pre-production environment. And you can have the automated tests that represent those interactions. So what does that mean? That means you are turning, let's say, manual testers into I'm not going to say automation engineers, because they don't even know what's happening behind the scenes. It's like manual testers are just doing their day-to-day job. On the other side, TrueTest is automating all of those manual tests that ran. So now next time there's a new build in your pre-production environment, let's say there's somebody else merges the code, then you already have automated tests to run against that new code and provide immediate feedback inside the release itself, right? So you're not having to wait for another team to automate tests and then connect those tests to CI/CD and so on and so forth. TrueTest is doing that automation for you based on how people are manually testing in that environment. That's huge. and like I said, we didn't come up with this use case. That was one of our customers that were like, well, can we do that? I mean, that would be amazing. And yes, it works perfectly. Third use case that was brought to us by one of our partners was, well, I already have Selenium scripts for my application here today. I don't want to lose all the investment I've done. It's a lot, we put in a lot of work there and all that. But at the same time, we're spending too much time maintaining those Selenium scripts as the application changes. We have a great framework, helps us with maintenance, but we still have to put in a lot of effort. So how does this help, right? So in talking to them, we were like, well, what if you instrument the environment that you run your automated tests every night, right? Then once those tests run, what do they do? Well, they bring up a browser, doesn't matter if it's headless or not, bring up a browser, interactions happen on the browser, TrueTest captures all that. What do you have in the other end? Automated tests in Katalon. So they started thinking, well, we can now start adding applications to from an Katalon adoption perspective. We can start adding applications quicker because we don't have to think about, oh, we're going to have to automate everything from scratch on Katalon, and we already had this huge automation suite before. So TrueTest is actually helping you go from whatever automation you have today with Selenium, Cypress, Playwright, whatever, right? Bringing that automation to Katalon without having to worry about custom libraries that you have in your framework, anything, because at the end of the day, what we're seeing is interactions in a browser, whether it's Selenium doing it, Playwright, or any other commercial tool. TrueTest doesn't care. It takes that, turns those into those test cases that I showed you earlier, and it's ready to run through Katalon. So migration is a huge use case as well. And then number 4, I alluded to that earlier. Now you understanding those coverage gaps. If you have done that with use case number 2 and number 3, you have different levels of coverage now. Now you understand what the users in production are doing. You understand, based on all that, how much of that are you manually testing and how much of that do you have automated? So like 3 levels of coverage that can be overlaid one on top of the other and give you all of the intelligence for you to understand really what is the health of your testing process today. So we're really proud of it, and I know I'm overly excited as you can probably tell, but and I'm sure you can imagine many other scenarios. This is just the beginning for us. All right, so let's see here. Whew, lots of questions.
Here, I'll take one live that I was typing comments from. I think it'll be relevant.
Go.
Someone asked, does this make Katalon Studio obsolete? And I think everyone will agree, and not surprisingly, we don't think it obsoletes Studio, but it augments Studio, just like it augments you or your team as testers. We are generating Studio scripts, as you saw in the demo. So scripts that you're familiar with, keywords that you're familiar with, you can apply those scripts, which are generated for you automatically. You don't have to worry about, and accomplish, a baseline of testing, out of the box with little effort. Studio is still there for test cases that aren't even out in the environment yet. So as you can think of this in industry terms, right, is very much shift right. We're looking at the application that's deployed. As you shift left and are building tests for features that haven't even entered, maybe even pre-production environments, that's where you can continue to use Studio to interact with early versions of the application, and also to potentially, develop more elaborate requirements tests that may not even be evident to end users. There may be use cases, special edge cases that you want to capture. Alex, anything you'd want to add to that?
No, I think you covered it. So a couple of questions here on, like, can we run this on mobile devices, on iPads and things like that? So right now we're starting with web-based applications. So if you have, web-based applications that run on a browser, that's the focus now. Although if you have a mobile web application, mobile web application, it works just as well, right? If it renders in a browser, whether you're looking at the app from a computer or a mobile device, so an iPad or a cell phone or smartphone, then yes, it does capture, and we treat it the same way. Obviously, the goal is to evolve the technology to also cover mobile native apps, and then kind of go from there. But we're in beta, and that's why we let's see here. Yeah, that's why we want you to sign up to join our beta program, because we're in a point where we've got a great sample of different applications, web applications across our customer base that have signed up for the alpha and now beta. But now we're opening it up to the world, and we want to make sure that we cover as many different types of application as possible as part of the beta, so that we can harden the technology to be future proof, right, for any kind of web-based application, whether it's custom app in React, Angular, whatever, even in like Salesforce, SAP Web, and so on and so forth. So if you are interested, if this technology and the value it delivers resonates with you, please consider joining our beta program. We have a full white glove service to help you go through the process, which is very simple. As I mentioned, that instrumentation step, and then we'll help you realize the value very quickly and learn along the way together.
So I'll grab Natalie Gittleman. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Has several questions that I think I can tackle here. So one that has come up from several people is, is this an addition to Studio or is it standalone? I've also gotten the question, is this an addition to our enterprise offering for the platform? What's the cost like? And then I will get to some other ones. So on the, where does this fit relative to Katalon Platform, Katalon Studio, et cetera? It is a separate product. We are still working through details of pricing and how we sort of size that. We think it will be sort of around the complexity of the application under test. But we'll be working through that with early adopters, which we hope some of you will become. As you saw in the demo, it's not part of Katalon Studio, but it integrates well into Katalon Studio. It's generating scripts that you understand and are familiar with. We really encourage it to be used as something, maybe a gray box, something you can look into to inspect. But that we're going to regenerate scripts for you based on new usage. But you can absolutely edit, manage those scripts to the extent you feel comfortable. Merge in additional features. Natalie also asks, what about visual testing or database testing, file uploads and downloads? What are limitations? Visual testing is actually a pretty core element of what we do here, because it's a great way to record these suites. And then, there you go. Thank you, Alex, to take a checkpoint. So that's another example of where we use existing features in the Katalon platform to make this all work together, right? You saw the same thing when we run these tests on our test cloud, which gets to something that was asked earlier too. How does this relate to Katalon runtime engine? What if I'm running my Katalon tests inside my firewalls on a CI/CD system? Well, you can take these tests and you can run them with carry, just like you can on Test Cloud. But the nice feature with Test Cloud and visual test integration is you're making use of a number of features that already exist. Natalie also asks, is database testing included? This is all operating at the user interface layer, so it's not going to be recording anything about what's happening in your database. You could create a separate set of tests that maybe you merge into a test suite alongside this that's checking database status as things occur. We'd probably want to consult on that. File uploading and downloading, that can be tricky. I know we've been working on making that work reliably during recording sessions. May have some updates on that, but we can come back to you on that. Natalie also asked, what about lines of code limitations? We generate relatively extensive tests, and we haven't run into any issues. But obviously, as code gets longer, it does take longer to run. And we have some performance improvements coming in our 9.0 studio release that address some of that as well. And again, TrueTest builds on top of that. So I think that covered at least some of Natalie's questions. And please, Natalie, if you have further questions, get in touch with us. We'd love to do one with you, because those have all been really helpful.
And I was skimming through here just because we need to wrap. I just got the notification here, but one last thing I'll say, because there were quite a few questions. So about what else are we creating? So right now we're creating web UI tests. Yeah, so that's the current state. But some folks here are asking. I mean, that's good, because those are the use cases we're also thinking. And I'm sure you guys have thought of different ones as well. But for now, the question is, can you also create API tests from the traffic that you're capturing, right? From those user interactions that you're capturing? Because if you're capturing the interactions, in those interactions, there's API calls, right? And responses and all that. So right now, we're focusing on web UI during this beta program. But that's definitely one thing that's in our radar for future. It's in our backlog. Is we're capturing the API calls as well. We might consider also creating API tests automatically for the same purposes. So we're starting with UI based automated tests, but the future is limitless, literally. So thank you guys for all the questions. I see there's a couple more coming in, but we're going to answer them offline, and I promise we will. Thank you for the amazing questions. Please consider joining our beta program here. Instructions on the screen. As you sign up, Maya and I are the ones that are going to receive the sign up notification. We're going to personally reach out to you and onboard you into the program. So I look forward to working with you and helping you realize this amazing game-changing benefit in helping you take care of regression testing once and for all. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. Appreciate all the questions and interaction. Thank you, Cody and Mai, for the support, and my partners in crime. And thank you, Lucio, for organizing everything. Appreciate it. Have a great day, evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.